let's go ahead and get started. We all know why we are here, and I wanted to actually introduce myself first, but you kind of know a lot about me already. You know that I'm your math teacher and I tutor math as well. I teach at schools, I teach for 18 years, and then overall I have like about maybe 25 years teaching experience. So I taught in colleges before, was a TA, stuff like that.
So what you're saying is you're underqualified.
I'm underqualified. What do you mean underqualified?
I mean, this seems like you don't have that much experience.
25 years teaching is not much experience. Well, in that case, yes. Okay, so I have, I had about 15,000 students. I was counting the other day, like how many students did I teach so far? Maybe like about, 1,500, maybe a little bit more. And I have experience in teaching middle school and high school math classes, all of them. If you think of a math class, you name it, I taught it. So I know a little bit, like tricks about every single math class. And, since I'm a Dr. K, so I have a PhD, it's in engineering, which is very closely related to math. And NBCT, that means a National Board Certified Teacher. That's like the highest teacher certification you can get in the United States. And I regularly attend conferences, and then I'm presenting at conferences. So I'm kind of like very cool, Yeah, and I know a lot about math and students and how students learn math. So I wanted to share this because you guys know that we always talk about math in classes, but we don't really talk about how to study efficiently for math classes. So I wanted to briefly, because I didn't want it to be long, touch on a couple of things here. So one is math is hard. Why is it hard? And I know I'm a teacher, I'm supposed to tell you otherwise, but we will look into deeper meaning behind this. I know that the big thing about studying for math is procrastination, so we'll touch base on that. And then we'll talk about some little tricks and tips that we can do to actually study more efficiently for math tests. One of them is about environment that we often don't think about, but it might help us to trick our brains into getting the information better and storing it better. And then we'll finish with the plan on what you can actually do when you are studying for the next test. And if you just started a new unit, which I know that both of you did, you can use those. So a big quote that I wanted to start with is the only way to learn mathematics is to do mathematics. It's kind of like with the sports. The only way to learn how to do sports is to actually do the sports. If you see NBA player making a three-pointer and then it looks easy, and then you go try to do it, and then all of a sudden you can miss the hoop and it doesn't look so easy. So same thing here. It's basically the gist of the presentation, and we are going to talk about how to do mathematics effectively so that we can actually put it in our brains and learn it. And as I said, the first part is going to be about math being hard.
So it's like the acceptance phase.
Why is it hard? So I know as a teacher, I'm supposed to tell you like, oh, no, it's easy. Everybody can do math. But as I said in my explanation for this workshop, is that I am relying on to some brain research, and our brains, the humans, started evolving about 2 million years ago. But the brain, the way we have it right now, is very new comparatively to 2 million years old. It's only 200 years old. So the neocortex is the part of the brain that we're using to study math, to use logic, and that is relatively new. So our human brain, our human nature is used to thinking about surviving, right? About finding food, and it is not hardwired to actually think about those. What is X? How do you touch X? The plus sign. How do you touch the plus sign? Like if you read the word, I don't know, cat on the page, you can actually find the cat and then you can point at it and then you can say, well, this is the cat. But when you see X plus Y equals Z, it's like, where is X? What is Z? What does plus mean? So it's all very like ephemeral, and it's very hard for our brains to kind of like get to the nature of it. That's why math is hard. And because of that, I wanted to explain a little bit about how the brain works. Not too much, but just a little. And one thing that I wanted to touch is that the brain has, again, it's very shallow kind of like explanation. It's not a very deep research because I don't want to bore you with all that information. But there are two modes of how the brain works. One mode is the focused, and another one is the diffused. So the focused mode is when you're actually opening your textbook, opening your notebook, and then you're studying, you're focused. You might not even hear what's happening around you. There might be like a bear running around and you will not notice it. And another mode is what we call a diffused mode. So it's the mode when brain works, like it works in the background. So when you're going for a walk on the beach with a dog, you are still, your brain still might be working on that hard problem that you might be focusing, that you might have been focusing on half an hour ago. And
is it possible for your brain to be diffused 24/7? Because I feel like I might have that problem.
It is possible, but the diffused mode is not going to work well if you did not use the focused mode, because you have to first, the focused mode puts some information into the brain to work on. And if you're always in diffused mode, then, well, you kind of don't have much input to work with. Here's an example of a diffused mode. You can practice it yourself. So I have this puzzle. I actually posted it on Instagram a while ago, and there were a few people who answered it correctly. If you have these coins, right? So how many do I have? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 coins. The goal is to move just 3 coins and then get this arrangement into this arrangement. So instead of
I got that one right.
Instead of coins facing up, you have to move just 3 of them to make sure that they face down. The thing with this one is that very often the little kids, they can figure it out right away. But then maybe like college professors, sometimes they have a very hard time with that, because we are thinking, you know that saying, think outside the box. Well, we're thinking in the box, and we start thinking about, okay, moving this one here, that one there. But think about it. If you don't know the answer, think about it, and then you can kind of like try to forget about it, and then the answer will come to you. You will see how easy it is. And if it doesn't, then at the end we can go back and revisit this one. So, all right. So that's 2 modes of how the brain works. And then the brain also has 2 types of memories. And this is where the key part in our learning is, because very often when you study for the tests the night of or the night before the test, what you're engaging your short-term memory. So the short-term memory is like an octopus, and it has 8 legs or 8 arms, 8 tentacles, or actually our short-term memory has about 4 or 5. Those are how many pieces of information you can hold in your memory at once. So that's why if you're thinking about, let's say, a phone number, when it's 4 digits, it's easy to remember. When it's 10 digits, area code, and then 7 digits, right? It might be much harder to remember because you're holding it in the short-term memory, and it's like you don't have enough tentacles to hold all those pieces of information. So our goal when we study for the test is to move the information actually into a long-term memory. And long-term memory is like a library with all those books. And you can at any moment pull out that book and figure out what was in there. So how do we do that? We do that by increasing our connections between the neurons in our brain. And how do you do that? Bad news or good news, it's repetition.
That's
so
bad
the more
news,
you,
Dr. K.
That's bad news. So the more you practice that information, the thicker those pathways between your neurons become, and then the easier it is for you to recall the information, which actually is my next slide here, because in order to be successful on the test, you need to be a retriever. Well, you all know that I have, well, some of you know that I have a dog who's a Labrador Retriever. This is not my dog. This is not the picture of my dog. That's one that I found there. What I wanted to illustrate here is, how do you study? you can, usually people study by rereading the information, especially like this book is like history or English, I don't know. And I know that people love to take the highlighter and then just start highlighting. Same thing with math. Very often people just look at the notes and then see, oh, okay, well, I see I did this, that's in my notes. Yep, I got it. It's all good. So what happens is that you are creating this fake sense of knowledge. So you think that you know it, but you only know it because you see it in front of you. Okay. So what you should be doing instead is you should be recalling the information. So you should be actually looking at your problem in your notebook and then closing your notebook or putting it away, taking some paper and then trying to redo this problem. You have to recall it. You have to see, okay, I put it in my memory, right? Can I now pull that book off of the shelf and open it and see what's in there? If you're opening that book and there is nothing, a blank sheet in there, then maybe you did not do a good job in actually putting the stuff in there. Okay, so recalling is very important. However, you do not wait too long to recall the information, otherwise it becomes a relearning. We're not going to talk about the learning curve or forgetting curve in here, but the forgetting curve basically goes like this. You remember, you're given some information, right? You're in a math class, the teacher teaches you stuff, and you're like, okay, yes, took some notes. Okay, I got it. 10 minutes after class, you are forgetting a significant chunk of information. 10 hours after class, you're forgetting 70% of information that you learned in that class. So it is very important to refresh that in your memory before the next day. So that forgetting curve, you kind of like pull it up so that you are refreshing it in your memory. If you're waiting for too long, then your knowledge, the information that you have in your brain kind of like diminishes almost to zero. It's like an exponential curve, almost to zero. And then you just have to relearn the new stuff again. You're again looking at it and you're like, I have no clue what's going on here. So be a retriever. That's an important piece here. One more thing I wanted to add about the notes. If you're doing highlighting, that doesn't really help you learn. But if you're taking, see how in this picture I have some like notes on the margins. If you're taking notes, then that actually is more helpful because that like hand-brain connection, it helps you remember stuff better. So if you're taking some notes, then do that instead of highlighting. Divide and conquer is another helpful strategy on how to study. So one of them is a list, and then I am going to have you, well, let me explain what it is. So what I mean is when you're studying for the test, think about what did you study in the last unit, in the last chapter, right? Usually in math class, the tests are happening, you study something for a couple of weeks, and then you have a test. So just sit without looking at your notebook and think about what did you study in your last chapter? So how about you put it in the chat? I think I have chat enabled. How about you put in the chat 3 things that you studied in the last chapter? And if you just took a test, it can be the chapter that you just took a test on. Give me 3 things in the chat. If you can't remember 3, give me 2. So what did you study in the last chapter? Just, I don't know, did you study addition? Did you study factoring? Did you study subtraction?
How do I do a chat? Oh, never mind, I got it. Okay, hold on.
I think it's on the top, right? Sine logs, graphing logs, perfect. Okay, rational functions, cool. Can you be more specific when you're saying rational functions? Can you like split it into little topics? Can you think about what did you do for rational functions?
Yeah, brother, that's one.
Graphing, multiplying. Okay. I would probably think
dividing.
Dividing. I would think probably more specifically, like with rational functions, you talked maybe about finding zeros. Maybe you talked about finding asymptotes, right? So something very specific. Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. Okay. Karthik, don't be shy. You can put something in the chat as well if you learned anything. So the thing is, those three things that you put in the chat, those are the three things that you remember better than the other ones. Okay. So when you're creating a list of what you studied and you wrote it down, go back in your notebook and see what did you miss, what did you forget. And then when you're studying for the test, you have to focus more. I'm not saying study only those other things, but you have to focus more on the other things that you actually forgot when you were creating a list. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. I think that probably you know already is a study group helps a lot. There was a study about a study group. There was a study about how come some students learn better, especially in colleges, and some students, they fall behind. And the scientists, they figured out that students who study in study groups, they actually perform better. One of the reasons is because they are being the retrievers. They retrieve the information. They have to teach others or explain to their peers how something works. And when you explain it to someone else, you retrieve that information, so you learn better. Why do you think I know math that well? Well, because I retrieve the information all the time and I tell you that information. Okay, well, maybe also because I was teaching for 18 years or so. So anyways, so that's a very important strategy, very simple and very effective strategy. And then the last one I wanted to mention is the chunking. So you're creating a chunk of information, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about that. So you need to package the information, all those little pieces, into one big piece, kind of like, Ryan, what you showed us when you said rational functions. So I'm going to have a slightly easier example with, say, quadratic functions. So for quadratic functions, you start learning quadratic functions, and then your teacher shows you, this is the quadratic function, ax squared plus bx plus c. So first you learn the general form, and then probably you learn how to factor that quadratic function. And maybe you see that not all of them can be factorable, so you learn the quadratic equation, and then your brain starts exploding like, oh my gosh, I have to remember that. And then on top of that, you start learning about where to find the line of symmetry, maximum or minimum. You graph your quadratic function, you do the transformations of quadratic function. And of course, don't forget about completing the square, right? We all love that part. The thing is, once you practice enough all those pieces of information, instead of thinking when you study for the test, you're thinking, okay, I need to know this, and I need to know that, and I need to know this piece. Once you chunk them, once you have enough practice with them, and then you see how they're connected, those become, it's like pieces of a puzzle, and then you put them together into one big puzzle, and now what you see, what your brain sees, is quadratic functions. So if somebody tells you quadratic functions, then you immediately think about all those different things that you can do with them. Another example is fractions. We all know how much I love fractions. So with fractions, when you start learning about them, or around that time, you learn some scary words like GCF, LCM, common denominator is going to haunt you for the rest of your life. And then you learn how to simplify those and multiply, and then mixed numbers and negative numbers, right? You're dividing, you are subtracting and adding, and then you put all of them together. And then you see something like this, and then you freeze because you have no idea where to start. And then on top of all that, you throw in some variables, and that's kind of like the end of the world there. But when you practice enough with fractions, same thing. Your brain just thinks about, instead of seeing rational function, your brain is like, oh, it's just a fraction, right? And then at this point, I'm going to spend a minute or two for an advertising, a couple of minutes of advertising here, because I have a wonderful course on fractions for high school. specifically for high school. So as we all know, 5 out of 4 students don't know fractions. That's a joke. You're allowed to smile here or laugh. 5 out of 4 students.
That wasn't, I got scared for a second. I said, Dr. K, the Chanel of math wouldn't be saying things like that.
Right, that was a joke. That was a sarcasm. Okay, thank you. So what this course is it has, I recorded 8 video lessons for you. I have notes and I have practice, of course. And for today only and 2 more days after today, so for next 2 days, you guys can get a 20% off if you sign up to get that course. It's very simple. You just DM me and then I will send you all those video lessons. I will be sending them regularly, once every 2 days, so that you're not overwhelmed right away. There are 2 different options here. You can do all by myself package, and I'll explain about it in a moment. It is $59.99 plus 20% off, so 20% off of that. And another one is a package with the feedback, which is $89.99 because it's a lot of work for me. So here is what those packages include. The first one, all by myself, is it reviews the fractions, the main simplification rule. I actually like talking about fractions with high school, starting with multiplication and division, because they are easier to explain than addition and subtraction. So then we'll talk about GCF and LCM, what those mean, and then addition and subtraction. We'll touch on decimals, and then we're going to put it all together in like this big expression, so that next time you see that big expression, you're not scared of it. You're like, okay, I know how to deal with that. I'll do this piece, and then you can figure it all out. And then it's all by yourself. You're on your own. So you just get those video lessons, you get notes, you get practice, you get the answers to practice so that you can see if you did those problems correctly. However, if you would like to get some feedback, if you would like to chat about how come I'm doing this problem for the 17th time and I'm still getting the wrong answer, you can get feedback from me. I will show you where you're making a mistake. We can do it all together. And in addition, you get another lesson, which is a lesson on rational expressions and equations. So those are the expressions that will have variables in those. So same thing, you're getting video lessons, notes, practice, you are getting a lot of support from teacher, and then you get the feedback on practice problems. Okay, so that's an option that you can do. All right, back to how to study for tests. Procrastination is a big thing that I wanted to touch on, because since I said that procrastination, since the math is not natural for human brains, it is harder for human brains than other activities. Some of us think that math is kind of painful, and we tend to procrastinate because it's much more fun to actually do, I don't know, watch a YouTube video or go on Instagram and then just watch a bunch of reels, or I don't know, go for a walk or play soccer with your friends, than do math. Well, unfortunately, when we procrastinate, we don't build enough of those connections for the brain. So we are not very well prepared. So I'm actually starting from the left bottom corner here. So we end up cramming for the tests. And then it feels like, well, I studied for 3 hours for the tests. How come I didn't do well? Well, because you did not build all those neural connections. Your memories are still in hands of that octopus that is during the test kind of like goes to sleep. Okay, and you want to put those memories into the bookshelf instead of the hands of the octopus. Distractions are another thing that prevents us from studying properly. So when you are taking the tests and when you're studying for the tests, it's important to eliminate those. Ideally, you will put the phone somewhere away in the other room. For the test, by the way, too, there was a research done that if you have a phone near you versus in your backpack versus in the other room, you do better on the test if your phone is actually in the other room. And it's not even because your phone might whatever ping at any moment and some message might come up. It's just because your brain in the diffused mode, your brain is still thinking about your phone instead of concentrating. But once you put it away, your brain is not thinking about it anymore or thinks much less about your phone. I know that a lot of our homework is given on computers these days, but at least if you have to use a computer for homework, turn off notifications so that you don't have those messages coming up and you're focused on your work. And of course, we all always come up with a bunch of excuses. It's like, well, I would have studied for my math test, but I need to go walk my dog first, and I need to help my parents with dinner. That's another thing. We need to kind of get rid of those excuses. We need to think about the big picture. What do you want? Like big picture, like what do you want to be when you are, I don't know, my age? Do you want to be, for the lack of better reference, do you want to wash toilets in McDonald's, or do you want to be a CEO of a big corporation? So think about the steps that you need to do in order to achieve your dream, right? So when you're thinking about the big goal, then those smaller goals, they become more important, and you're doing better in achieving those. So how do we actually deal with procrastination? One of the things is, hold on. When I talk too much, I need to drink some water. So one of the things is we use our willpower, but the thing about the willpower is very often in like the modern research, you'll see willpower doesn't work. Well, yes and no. We all know that if you decide to, I don't know, start a new routine or something, and then you get up in the morning and then you have your willpower, you're like, no, I'm going to say no to coffee today. I'm not going to drink the coffee, or I'm not going to check my text messages the first thing I wake up. But then when the day continues, your willpower kind of like wills. So the willpower is kind of like a muscle, and you can actually exercise it and build it up. Or as a muscle, it can fatigue. So that's why by the end of the day, we're thinking that, yeah, doing my homework, no, I'd rather just like sit in the chair and like, I don't know, whatever, scroll my Instagram or TikToks or something. One thing to do with the willpower is actually, how are we doing on time? Okay, let's do this. Let's all get up and do a plank. I am getting up right here, and you will not see me because I'm on the floor right now, honestly, and I don't see you, but I am on the floor. I'm doing a plank. So here's the thing with the willpower. The plank, nobody likes planks. Nobody, honestly. And it's not actually being in a plank. My hands are shaking now. It's not actually being in a plank. It's the moment when you have to actually get up and do it and be in a plank. All right, and you don't have to stand there for too long. So I'm back already. Uh-oh, I saw Alex did not do a plank with me. Okay, so my hands are shaking. It is, so what's about it is so important is the moment when you actually push yourself to get up and do it. Oh, Alex is doing a plank now? Okay, cool, awesome. It's the moment when you actually push yourself to do it, because once you did it, your brain gets the signal of achievement. It's getting a positive reinforcement. And you know, when you have to do something, you can do it. If you can do this small, teeny, tiny thing, then you can do a big thing. All those small, teeny, tiny things, they compound to big changes. Okay, we'll get back to it in just a moment, because another thing I wanted to mention, Alex, you can come back to us. Come back. I was training to do planks in another program, and I started with 30 seconds, and then it took me, I think, about a month to get to 5 minutes. So once I was in the plank for 5 minutes, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. And then at about like 3.5 minutes, I realized that I could actually do, that was my big goal, to stand in the plank for 5 minutes. And after 3.5 minutes, I realized that I could actually do that. And then I was all shaking, but I'm like, I can do it. It's like, I don't know, it was such a powerful moment. So small compared, but I don't know, very, I I don't know.
I'm proud of
empowering.
you, Dr. K.
Oh,
I've been-
thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to the gym this morning and I did a plank for like 15 minutes and I started crying.
For 15 minutes?
Right.
I started 15 seconds is what I meant
Oh,
to say.
15. Oh, okay.
15 seconds. And then I started
Yeah.
crying.
I think the world record was like 8 hours or something, and there was some Chinese guy who was standing in the plank. Yeah, you can Google it. Okay, so you might have heard about a Pomodoro method. Pomodoro is a tomato in Italian. Why? Why it has such a silly name is because so the method works like this. You set a timer for 25 minutes of work focused mode when you're actually working, right? Your phone is in the other room, you're not paying attention to anything, you're working hard. And in 25 minutes, your timer goes off, and then you give yourself 5-minute break. You can go walk around, you can search your web, your Instagram, do whatever for 5 minutes, and then you go back to 25 minutes work, maybe on the same topic, maybe on a different topic. Once those 25 minutes are up, even if you're like in the middle of the problem, you still get up, you drop everything, and then you just go rest, relax, do your plank for 5 minutes. Yeah, something like that. Why it's called Pomodoro method? Because if you have your phone in the other room, for example, you cannot set up the timer for 25 minutes on your phone. What you can do is you can buy one of those tomato kitchen timers. They look like tomatoes, and then you can set that one up for 25 minutes. And that's how originally it was done, with the tomato kitchen timer. That's why it's called the Pomodoro method. Try it. It might work for you. It might not work for you, but it's something that is helpful. Like many people say that it's helpful. So I am suggesting this method as well. One of my favorites is to schedule your work, because very often when we have to actually sit down and study for something, it's not that we lack motivation, it's we lack the plan. So in your mind, you like, how often do you think, okay, well, I'll get home and then I will work on it, right? When you get home, then life gets in the way. Your parents ask you to, I don't know, go wash dishes or go walk the dog, and then your friend calls, and then you remember that you needed to return your books in the library, or you need to go for a run, whatever, and then it's 9 o'clock, and then you still didn't study, and then you're sleepy and tired, and your brain doesn't work anymore. Okay. Thank you, Ryan. So the good thing is, or the useful thing is, to plan and actually say it out loud. When and don't say when I come home, make it an exact time. At 3:30 p.m., I will work on math homework for 30 minutes or 25 minutes, right? For 25 minutes in the kitchen. Or at 4 p.m., I will work on my math homework for 40 minutes at my desk in my bedroom. Once you say it out loud, you made it into a plan. So at 4 p.m., you will actually go to your desk, and then you will work on your math for 40 minutes or 25 minutes, whatever much time you put in your schedule. Another trick that you can do is you can actually, instead of saying a time, because sometimes you might want to say that I don't really know like when I'm going to get home because I need to go run this errand. Maybe that's not going to be feasible, but you can stack it to another thing. So for example, you can say, when I come back home after walking my dog, I will work on math homework for 25 minutes at my kitchen table. So that way, you know, okay, you walked your dog, you came home, now you work on your math homework, or you're studying for the test for that much time. That helps you to create a habit. And then one little thing about habits, how to create good habits. We know habits can be good, habits can be bad. So to create a good habit, you need to, we have 4 stages to creating a habit. It's cue, craving, response, and reward. So cue is when you see something, like you have a phone and your phone pings, that's your cue. And then you start craving to check the message on your phone. You're like, oh, I just got the message, I need to check it. So then your response is you pick up the phone and then you check the message. And then your reward is now, you know what's in the message, you're feeling good, you're satisfied, you're craving, that's your reward. Same thing for the habits. To study for the test, to work on your math homework, you have to make it obvious. You have to make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. So what that means is that when you come home, or maybe it's a weekend, just leave your math notebook on your kitchen table or wherever you study normally, on your desk. Maybe even open it so that it's obvious. And next time you pass your desk, you see your math notebook there and you're like, oh yeah, I need to do a couple of problems from that homework. Make it attractive. When you're taking notes, highlight the different colors, like box the whatever the answer, so that it's even like eye-pleasing when you're looking at this. Maybe get some cute pens or pencils. I know that we have guys here, but I know for girls it works wonders. You probably saw girls in your classrooms that have like cute pencils and highlighters and cute little pouches. So it's attractive. Make it easy. If it is on your desk already waiting for you, you don't need to like go through your stuff and find it and find all those crumbled papers. It's right there in a notebook or in a binder, organized. It's easy to just start working the homework and then make it satisfying. So again, it will be satisfying kind of like in the long run, because you will be getting better test scores in the long run, but make it also satisfying in the short run. So reward yourself somehow. It might be very satisfying if you actually solve that problem that you looked at before, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to solve it. And now you know how to solve it. So it's satisfying. You can reward yourself with, I don't know, I'm just going to have some ice cream after I'm done with this. That is satisfying, because our human nature, we actually crave the immediate satisfaction, right? It's good to think about, yes, if I do that, I will get an A on my math test 2 weeks from now. But it's honestly, we need something right away. So make it satisfying. And then once you go through those steps, your brain sees that, oh, you're getting a reward. It must be a good habit. So it will force you, or well, your brain will cooperate with you, and then you will be doing this thing again and again and again. Same thing to break your bad habits. If you come home and then you start playing video games right away, make it not obvious, make it not attractive, make it hard, make it not satisfying. So hide your remote control, put your, I don't know, TV in the other room so that you have harder access to it, so that you break that habit or whatever is distracting you from whatever you would like to do. And that actually works not just for math tests, obviously for anything in life. One of the bad habits I was reading about was about smoking, but we're not going to talk about smoking because none of you are smokers, right, guys? Good. Okay. We're almost done. I have just a few more slides here. Environment is another thing that can work for us or against us in our 5 senses. So very briefly, when you are studying for the test, you do realize that you're taking a test in a different room. It's going to be your classroom, or maybe if it's standardized test, it's going to be somewhere like in a different location altogether. So you have to train your brain to actually work in all the different environments. So if your brain is trained that when you are at your desk, in your bedroom, and you work on math homework, then it turns right away, it starts working and you remember everything. And when you come to your classroom, you're like, oh my gosh, I remembered it yesterday and now I forgot it. So train your brain to think about the topic that you're studying in different environments. Go for a walk, try to recall some information, try to study in the library or in a coffee shop, so that you're not like tying that studying to just this one place. Okay, so that way, when you're somewhere else, you already know that, well, it doesn't matter where I am, I still know this information. I still know that 2 + 2 = 5, right? Okay, everybody took it. All right. And 5 senses, engage your 5 senses. So obviously you're engaging your sight because you're looking at those math problems. Sounds, I know that some of you like listening to music, but if you listen to music, then at least make sure that it doesn't have words, because your brain actually is getting distracted by the words. Or better yet, because when you're taking a test, most likely you're going to be in a quiet room. So train yourself to work in that quiet room. So no sounds. Smell is an interesting one. There is actually research that I keep talking about. There is research that says that if you if you smell something, have some scent, then it can trigger memories. So if, for example, if you're studying and then you're wearing a certain cologne, wear it on the test, because again, it just works. It works. Okay. Taste is, well, dark chocolate, more than 70%. That boosts your memory. It's not really even about the taste. It just has those whatever serotonins, whatever things, chemicals that helps help your brain like work more effectively. So, but it has to be dark, like more than 70% cocoa beans. And touch is another one. So as I said, maybe use the same pen that you used for studying and use it on the test, so that when you're touching it, like my pen has this little rigged surface here. So when I'm touching it, I already know like, oh, I'm going to be grading, because I usually use this pen for grading. That's my signal. So engage those 5 senses. This is something that people usually don't talk about, but those are little things that you can tweak that might give you that little oomph to do a little bit better on tests. So to summarize, this is my last part here. So the plan, things that you can start using right away. You can use, I'm actually going to go out of order here. You can use the study group. I already mentioned that, or a study partner, but make sure if you are in a study group that you are actively participating, that you're not just sitting there and listening to other students talking about stuff, that you also have some input, or you ask questions, or you even ask your partner like, hey, I know you just discussed it, guys. Can I just restate what you were saying? Do I understand it correctly? So that you say it, you recall it from your memory, you write it, so then you will know it better. Okay, tracking. Habit tracking. It is helpful to, actually, I'm going to go to consistency first. So kind of like what I mentioned before already, you have to stay consistent. You cannot just cram for the test 3 hours the night before the test and then think that, okay, I did study for 3 hours. I looked at my notes for 3 hours. It's all good. I see it. I know it. Yes, I can do it. It's not going to work like that. So you have to work consistently every day, a little, like even working for 10-15 minutes a day is going to be much better than doing nothing or cramming for 3 hours before the test, as I said. It helps you build those neural connections, and it helps you to put that information into the long-term memory from your short-term memory. So with that said, if you really decide to be consistent, tracking can help you with that. And tracking means you can just literally put on the calendar, you can put check marks for every day when you did work on math. Like I worked for 10 minutes on math, check mark. That is twofold. It gives you a reward, right? Remember that habit building, it gives you a reward because it's actually very pleasing for us to see that, oh, I did this. I did get up at 4:30 in the morning and go to the gym and worked out. I did do my math for 15 minutes after school every day. And of course, life happens, we all know that, and sometimes you might have some other engagements and do something else. So you might miss a day, and that's fine, but make it into a rule to not miss twice, because if you miss twice, now you are building a new habit, a bad habit of missing your studying, your work. So it's okay to miss a day, but try not to miss twice. You can have a journal if you're into journaling. You can put check marks on the calendar. You can just take a sheet of paper and then make a little chart here and say study for math, and then just put check marks for every day. So whatever helps you. It is helpful if you have it next to your desk or somewhere in the visible space so that you can see it, because again, it provides that reward, that little pleasure hormones to your brain. So it's like, oh, okay, yes, I'm doing great. And in the long run, it's going to add up. It's like compound interest in math. It compounds those little changes. And one last thing. all of this is going to be absolutely useless if you don't get a good night's sleep before your test. You have to get a decent sleep before the test. Otherwise, your brain is, sleep also twofold. Once, the diffuse mode is working while you are sleeping. So when you're sleeping and you kind of like getting that information settled down, it's moving from the short-term memory into long-term memory. If you're still working on some problem, it might solve itself in the morning, so to speak. And if you don't sleep well, then your brain is not going to work properly, and then you're not going to do well on the test. So all that information that I gave you in the past, 50 minutes, it's going to be absolutely useless if you don't get enough sleep. So with that, I wanted to thank you for coming over today. And I specifically wanted to thank Maria, who is with us today. She was pushing me to make this presentation, and she was like helping me behind the scenes. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I also have my email here, and I have my Instagram handle, so you can shoot me an email. And I'm obliged to show those credits for using this presentation template by SlidesGo. Okay, questions?
Could you email this?
I could.
I need
Absolutely.
to study it. I need to study it so I get it in my long-term memory.
Study, take notes, make a list. Yes, make a habit of studying it. Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.